Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing look at Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.41. Well, ended the last episode after somehow I think I accidentally misclicked and declared war against Iran, which was not my intention. So we went back and defeated Switzerland again. Took an extra day this time. But yeah, so we're going to continue here from that point. Not a whole lot. We are looking at, wanted to see diplomacy. Okay. What I want to try to do is invite to faction again here. Now this is very likely. So let's see if we can get Iran into a faction here. They've declined. Very likely has declined. Is that somehow... Oh, you don't need to be over here. Let's bring you over to Palermo. No. Let's bring you down here. Is there something that artificially keeping Iran from joining? Because normally with very likely, it's very likely. Oh, we can get. Oh, we don't. Oh, you don't want to get Finland in because that will get them at war with the Soviet Union, and we're not ready to go for that, and we don't want to do that. So we're not going to get Finland in. Right. Well. Okay, now what should I do with these things? Rebuild them probably would be the best thing to do at this point. Wish I'd gotten them out before. Okay. Panzergruppe Kleist, we'll go with Army Center, I guess. What is down here that's... You should be detached. I don't. Okay, well. This division with the heavy tanks shall come up to there. And I think... this one with the standard medium tanks will go there. Okay, we have another Jaeger division. Right, so what we're going to do here with that, you're going to become a new division. We're heading down. Oh, and hey, we got a decent guy here. Oh no, he's in armor. No, we want to commando armor. Yeah, we'll put him in charge. We just saw Den Huber. Well, where is our fun, friendly, evil SS guys? There. Why are you down here and not up the other? Okay, where is Den Huber? I know too much about World War II. It leaks out from my head and I forget things. There he is. Okay. Right. those are waiting to become. Very good. Let's take a look at our air war. Okay, well, so far it looks like we're doing a fair number of air battles, but no bombings are succeeding. Let's check out where's Fighter Command, or our equivalent of it. Flieger Corps Fighters. Okay, going over to Air Intercept Passive seems to be the right choice. Because they seem to stop fighting before they're all chewed up. Okay, let's put you here, Air Intercept. These guys are somewhat chewed up, but I guess they stopped. Or I stopped them, I don't know which. And they can continue to get reorganized. Okay. These guys here, we're going to air intercept all of their, but we're going to do this one just at night. Those are our night fighters. And here over Germany. So anything sort of gets deep into here, we will intercept them. Hey Rhaegar, what's the current status of Gade Goara? What is that, Grand War? I can't. Yeah, I hear you, Ari. I'm sort of the opinion that if we can't get them into the Axis, we will invade. I think you're going to keep pushing down into that way. Okay, just want to make sure at least one's going over there. Now, let's take a look here at Malta. I guess this is pretty good intelligence. They've got 2 HQ units, so I guess they're representing what's there. 2 anti-air, an anti-tank, artillery, 2 garrisons, 2 heavy anti-aircraft, heavy artillery, irregular infantry. Now, I think there's, I don't know, and then light tanks. I guess because there were a few light tanks on Malta. All right, well, we're going to keep up air naval strikes around here. Is that Ramillies, the battleship Ramillies, RAM or RMS or something, I think is what that is supposed to be. Okay, get on board. Get on board. Get on board, and we're going to take a cruise over to Tel Aviv, pick up the HQ. Now we should have this somehow stopping. I've messed things up. No. I thought I had a parachute unit heading down that way. I thought I had them. I didn't. Okay, well, strategically get down there. Okay, you fly to here. I think we'll come to Calabria. So I'm pretty sure that's close enough. All right. Well, where? Oh, are they you still up here? Yes. So let's Air Transport Corps. Right. I think everybody come to Calabria. We may make another hop. Okay, you guys, Salt Gliders, come down to here. You're shorter range, and you're going to take a long time getting there, I know, but you also, I guess, come down here, maybe. Destroyer escort role. Commerce defense. Well, that's what I think we will switch to from here to here. Protect our commerce. Now, like all my mouth noises. Is it entertaining? Is it ASMR enough? And we have a little bit more as well. Do we have? Okay, yeah, we had another Jaeger division come in. Well, what we're getting, we can go with a few more police units. It's hardly anything, but still it'll help us out a bit. They're all moving or attacking, good. Well, the Italians are doing particularly well. Down in Ethiopia, at least. Okay, we have another Jaeger unit. I like my Jaeger units. Okay, he'll be alright. Oh no, it's this one that just more. No, you're too good of a commander for this unit. Well, decisions, decisions, decisions. We might want to invade down here. But I'm... Okay. Rommel's Corps, oh, stop. Well, let's move you to here. We'll pick up these isolated little pockets. We come up for vacation here in Cairo. That we can't go any further there. Just not absolutely sure. What more? You can come up to a vacation in Alexandria. Where I should go with some of these guys. How deep should I get into Africa with them? So I know it looks like we have a lot of time before invading the Soviet Union, but still, it's not going to be as long as I might like. I want more, but of everything, so I'm not sure what I should. You know what I need is more naval forces here. Okay. Motor torpedo boats, we'll do 3. Let's do torpedo boats. Yeah, 3. We're going to come down for landing craft. We're going to go with 4 of those. Transport ship engines, very good. And submarine torpedo tubes have advanced. Not quite sure how torpedo tubes advance. Torpedoes and things that get a little more. Oh, here, okay. Yeah, some more DDs and subs. Well, not so much DDs. Yeah, well, I like a game that is realistically World War II. I do plan on invading the Soviet Union, just I'm not doing it on the historical schedule. Planning on doing it a bit differently. Okay. You guys come over this way as well. Yep, mountain troops out in the desert. Okay, all these guys here get on board ship. All these guys. Don't want to get too close to here. Well, okay, it looks like we are doing fairly well at bombing the hell out of their navy, so I'm not going to worry too much about their navy. So, well, I guess we can come to here, rebase. Don't want to get too close, but you're being covered by a air umbrella. Okay, let's look at revolt risks. Well, Italy's not doing well in its controlled areas of Greece. We need to get some of our areas as well. That's why we're building some of the military police units. So otherwise, things are looking fairly decent. And how can you have a World War II game without the Soviet Union? It wouldn't be a world war then. It'd just be a war. 1940s war or some such thing. Not a bad thing, but it's not World War. You know, you want to play World War, you want to play a World War. Okay, let's drop. Don't want to leave anybody out of the war now, do you? Just think, all those people not being bombed, not being attacked. Hey, Victory VT, how you doing? Good to have you here. Right, okay, well, we've got him, skill level just 1, he hasn't ground up much. Yeah, let's go to 4, I guess. Wait till those get organized up a bit better. Let's look at our naval map here. They're doing some raiding there. They're getting a few out there. He's getting a few. And guess this is maybe an Italian unit going through here. I know none of mine have gone through there. Oh, it's probably an Italian submarine heading over to here. Oh, that's where oh man, I messed up. I should have dropped the submarines that I just put out to fight in the Atlantic. I should have dropped them in here and used them to sink convoys coming into Malta and things. Yep, I made that mistake. Well, let's also, we have some more coming very soon. We can use those. And not just because Malta, yes, and we may take Malta before we even get a chance to use them much, but we can base them out here and raid other stuff, other convoys, other parts of the world. Yep, we lost this. No, you attack there. We want to pin these guys and keep from having them. Cutting off our forces here. Flying boat prototypes. Yeah, more submarines might be useful. Well, could be useful, I'm sure. Okay, grayed out and also All right. Well, we're pretty good on most. I normally like to push more ahead on fighters to just. It's more of a comparative to how good their fighters are. Okay, IFF transponder seems like a good idea. And self-propelled artillery brigade, which is grayed out. So let's come over here and we can go with improved bombing sight. Okay, so we have these submarines coming here. Landing craft, more submarines. And yeah, it's been a while since submarines. So let's do 2 long-range subs. And 2 normal subs, or whatever we want to call them. Standard range. Well, briefly, some sort of engagement. Aha. Going after a destroyer escort with a lot of aircraft. Okay. We're just going to keep asking Iran about inviting to faction. Very likely, it says. Okay. Iran has accepted our invitation. Okay, so now we have Iran in the Axis, everybody. Yay. Right, what this allows me to do is once we'll either invade or get Iraq. We are currently influencing Iraq, are we not? Just making sure that I know I did click that. Yeah, stop. So we are currently Iraq is getting close, but not yet possible. So once we do, then we can move forces in here to be able to push from the south into the Soviet Union. Well, okay, Ragar, it's September 41. I don't know the date, the historical date that they did this, but you got to remember the Soviet Union's at peace. Why would Britain or the Soviet Union invade Iran? The real reason they invade Iran is to be able to move Lend-Lease supplies through it. I don't believe I thought it was in 42 after the Americans were in the war. I'm pretty sure it was after the Americans were in the war that they invade Iran. I'm pretty sure it's 42 is when they invade, historically. Someone can look that up if they want to. I don't remember dates well. But and it was to get Lend-Lease through Iran into the Soviet Union. But with the Soviet Union at peace there, that ain't going to happen. And remember, right now, Soviet Union's our ally. We're buddies. We're jointly occupying Poland, and we let them have the Baltic states, and they're sending huge amounts of oil and food and other things to Germany, So, and Germany is selling them machine equipment to produce things. Hey, you're not going to use that stuff against us, are you? And the standard Soviet motorcycle is license built copy from the Germans. So the Germans helped them get the factory going, and the Soviet 45 millimeter anti-tank gun is virtually the same as the German 37 millimeter anti-tank gun. I say virtually because obviously it's a different caliber, but the design is the same basic design. Again, license built copies. So they're our best buddies, and so it was invaded in, August 41, if that's okay. But again, that would be after, because I thought it was after the U.S. was in, but thanks, Ragar. But that's only the cases that they were both at war with Germany. Right? Britain and the Soviets were at war with Germany. Is why they invaded, to secure that. But if without that being the case, no, I wouldn't say. Okay, so we have submarine batteries advance. Okay, right. Okay, submarine standard class. We can improve that. Good. Now, even technically, even if we don't get Iraq, we're probably in a good enough position. If we don't want to invade them, we could move units around Arabia, via the sea. Not that we're going to do that, that's sort of could if we wanted to do so bad enough. Okay, submarines coming. Let's build, 2 more submarines. Get that. Okay, so there we go. We got some more submarines coming. And we have plenty of occupation units now, but we want, oh good, we're getting more landing craft. That's what we could use. But once we really get going in the Soviet Union, we can always use more occupation forces. Right, okay, well, we have a lot of fuel, so I want to build a few more mechanized Panzer Grenadier. Oh, well, we go to the military. Please get rid of this guys. We'd go armored cars. Maybe we'll make these sort of not armored engineers. No, that's a bit much. Well, and okay, well, six versus 2. Okay, how much do these sell? Not much. Okay. Yeah, we'll just do that with, we'll get 2 of these divisions. Coming both at 27 ICs. So far, fairly safe. There's the destroyer escort there. And there's a big, there's the Ramillies sitting in port. Iran is mobilizing their army. Fine. We're not inviting you to play war just yet, guys. We just want you in our faction to be friendly. Friends. Okay, another Jaeger division. These Jaegers are heading somewhere south. It wasn't the original plan for them, but that is the current plan. This is sort of Jaeger plus. Okay, this Jaeger division. Yep. Martinic, or however you pronounce the name, I don't know. We are going to grab this unit, yep, and send him down there. Because this Jaeger division has light vehicles anti-tank, and we're going to put in one of the special purpose armors to make it sort of an elite, light, somewhat armored unit. Not a proper armored division, no, but still. Okay, you guys can just sort of like... Okay, yeah, there's a hard line there. Though I think they connect through this way, so we're getting supplies there. Right, so we've made it to port safely. All right, okay. Well, this division's coming. Otherwise, we are here. We are within command radius. Now, there are no air bases here, so we need to move these guys. Let's move them all here for the moment. I want to see how much we can get loaded on the planes at the same time. We're striking at something, but I don't know if we're doing much damage. No, this one. Well, not that we're going to get it done in time, but how are we? Airborne unit training, good. Airborne tactics, well, okay, we made it to 42, so we're pretty good there. Yeah, all right. You should see the Federal Reserve announced that they predict higher inflation than their original predictions and are moving up the date when they plan to raise interest rates. No, I hadn't heard that. I think we're heading back to 1970s situation. Currently, I think the federal government is spending way too much and is causing massive amounts of inflationary reasons, meaning they're pumping money into the economy, both paying people not to work. And I understood that when we really thought the pandemic was going to be there's tens of thousands in the Western world at least that have died from this, and we have no idea, because China lies. We have no idea how many people died in China. And I have to think, with the pandemic situation in India, how many people are dying from the pandemic, or just the pandemic is the final straw and they were already sort of, sickly anyway, just because of malnutrition and other things that are going. And I'm not saying they were people ready to die and were going to die, but you know what I mean. It's just, I have to, places like Africa, places like India, I have to think, because of the lack of medical support, generally speaking, not very good diets and other things, that it's contributing seriously to the death of many people. But we look at deaths from malaria and other things like that, and that's a whole insolvable problem unless we're invading and recolonizing places. So I don't concern myself with death tolls there. I'm sorry that people are losing their lives, but it's not how we should react. We thought it was going to be much worse here in the U.S., and so we wanted to, for a short while, pay people not to go out and work too much, so that we could, slow the spread, kind of stuff like that. Okay, good. That was good for a while, but they're continuing too much of that on the one hand, and on the other hand, they are dumping money into infrastructure projects. Well, everything is now infrastructure. Oh, well, human rights are infrastructure. I mean, they're just using the label because people like the idea. I mean, in the US at least, people like the idea of the government spending money on roads and bridges and internet connectivity and things like that. We like the idea of the government doing that. Now, we don't need 4 bridges across one river very right next to each other or something. Just simply doing it to do it at some point is too much. Now, where is too much and where is too little and where is just right? And that's all arguable. But we like the government, even sort of libertarians like the government building roads and bridges and other things that we truly think about infrastructure. But by paying people not to work, by paying people to work at things that don't have an immediate return on investment, because building a bridge over some river that needs it somewhere, that truly needs it, or repairing a bridge that's going to collapse in a few years, that economic activity would slow down, or will speed up because there's a new bridge connecting places. And so the government gets more tax revenue because of more without raising taxes, just gets more tax revenue. So it can eventually recoup if done right, or it would, again, make losses because bridges would fall apart, or expanding bridges, making them wider or whatever. That does actually have a recoup money cost eventually for the government, whether it's local, federal, or state governments or whatever. So spending some money there is good, but they're spending a lot, paying people not to work, and because of regulations, as well as just the international situation, different countries still dealing with COVID and other things, trade is not going well. So either resources coming in, or things like jobs shutting down the Keystone Pipeline or whatever. So we are definitely doing a lot of inflationary things. I do not think we are looking at hyperinflation, just because we are not Zimbabwe and we are not Germany paying off war debt that had that whole cycle thing. Germany, the hyperinflation of the Weimar years, the 2 times that it went into hyperinflation, would not have been that. Might have been inflation, might have been problems, but would not have been that without needing to pay off the debt, which they were the war reparations. But they had already sort of paid off the war reparations, but they were paying off the debts that they borrowed money from the U.S. to pay those kinds of things off. So we're not in that situation. So I don't think hyperinflation, but I definitely think 1970s level of inflation is coming. And so interest rates will go up. So the way it was more or less, and I'm, because I was there and I remember the late 70s, was if you had money, there was mostly the way to, between certain CDs and certain bank accounts, the rates of interest were high enough to more or less keep pace with inflation. So you weren't, if you had a lot of cash on hand and you had it in the right things, you were more or less protected from inflation. And that was doing okay. But people's incomes weren't keeping up with inflation, so things were getting more and more expensive. And so it's not maybe terribly good. But the banks and the businesses are too big to fail. That may or may not be the case coming in the future. Okay, well, we're going to send you guys up there because we're not planning on doing a naval invasion here. We might need to, but we're not planning on it. Yeah, well, you see, this is poverty is is particularly in the U.S., is a situation where poor people are, compared on the world level, are fairly well off. And it's never good to be poor. Not saying anything like that, but it's not necessarily, and I want to stress necessarily, because it depends on where you are and what's going on, but not necessarily the ruinous thing. Depends on how poor you are. And so, yeah, it's not very different in every nation, from my understanding. Yeah, it can't. Well, you see, and the whole idea with poverty, and this is where the left I get so upset with, for various reasons. There's always going to be the poor. Because one of two things. One, you're going to make everybody poor because you're going to go communist. So everybody's equally poor. Or just on your standards, there'll be some people at the top, there'll be some people in the middle, and there'll be some people at the bottom of the economic system. Now, maybe the economic system we will have is everybody will have private jets. So poor people will only have a small private jet, and rich people will have 20 big jets. Or something. You see, it's how do you categorize poor? If poor is having trouble feeding themselves, getting groceries and other things like that, well, that's a bad thing. But if poor people are, my car is 15 or 20 years old. My car is over 20 years old. So, hey, people, if it's a 20-year-old car, I'm poor. Okay, so, and it's not because I want to, it's not like some special collector's car or something like that. So, yeah, it's how you look at it, what level of, what state are you in with poverty is how you need to sort of look at that. And, is it just, do you have an old clunky car that and whatnot that makes you poor, and rich people have a really expensive car, and middle of America people, middle economic, they have a new car, but just sort of a cheapish but new car. Okay, well then I'm not going to cry for the poor people just over that. I mean, they may have other issues that are a problem, but if that's your situation, and so you just need to sort of understand the situation. Okay. They said, but thousands of people going to Canada to buy insulin, for example, because they can't afford it. It's alarming sign. Yeah, I understand about things like that. Not everyone can have the same level of medical care. Unless, again, you're going to be communist and have everyone have bad medical care. Now, I don't know the details of the insulin situation. I do know that there are cases in which some products are artificially high in the U.S. It's like sugar. There are sugar growers. They grow sugar like in Hawaii and down in Florida, let's say. There are probably other places, but I know they grow sugar in Florida and Hawaii. Well, in the U.S., sugar, there are import tariffs on importing sugar into the U.S. who protect sugar growers in Hawaii and Florida. If we were to remove those sugar barriers, sugar from, and if we were to let in Cuban sugar, but sugar from other parts of the world that would be much cheaper would flood into America. So sugar is expensive in America. So they have high fructose corn syrup sugar, or whatever it's called. So it's not classic sugarcane sugar. It's other sugars in a lot of our food. Instead of using cheap, better sugar from either the few U.S. producers or paying the import costs for expensive sugar. So we artificially keep the sugar prices high. Now, what's the best solution? Have cheap sugar for everybody in America, or have expensive sugar and alternatives to sugar that aren't maybe very good for you, some people say. I don't know if it's not as good for you or whatever, but we have these high tariffs to protect the sugar businesses. I don't know that we should be protecting any longer the U.S. sugar business. I don't know that it's a, because I am for certain protective things, like the GPU shortage that I'm sure all the viewers know about. No, I didn't say universal health care. I said equal health care. So if, we don't make enough computer chips in the USA for strategic national reasons. If, say, we don't have to go to a shooting war with China, but if China were to decide over a situation, say Taiwan or something, stop all exports to the US, anything going to the US, stop leaving China. And if that would cripple our economy, wait a minute, that is a problem. But we shouldn't, on the other hand, make it so that it is too expensive to import any computer chips into the US. So what I would do with the computer chips is something like CPUs and GPUs and whatever, say 25% of GPUs or something must be made in the United States, fully made in the United States, not just assembled here, not just whatever, 25%. And if fewer than 20, I'm just throwing that out as a percentage. If fewer than 25% of GPUs are made in the United States, that are sold in the United States, that triggers extra import duties. People say, oh, but that's only a cost added to the consumer. Yes, it just adds it to the consumer. But what it does do is it makes it so that a U.S. company can then potentially compete. Because in China, if they manipulate the currency, they can make it cheaper artificially to make it in China and destroy U.S. industry. So we need to have settings so that percentage of, and screens, whether it's your monitor screen, your phone screen, a percentage of these screens should be made in America. And so to have that manufacturing, at least a minimum capability going on in America, and then say, hey, yeah, 25% of phone screens need to be made in America that are sold in America. If you don't have that, then we start putting if it's below 25 but above 20%, we put a 10% tax on it. If it's below 20% but above 15%, we put a 20%. We just keep adding taxes so that it will make so that manufacturers will move the manufacturing to the U.S. So even though that same company may be still making it in China and exporting to the U.S., they will also have a local manufacturing capability as well. That's sort of how I would solve this. Universal health care. We have universal health care in the USA. Just so that everybody out there in the world knows that the Democrats lie. We have universal health care coverage in the United States. Everybody gets universal health care in the United States. Okay? Unpronounceable JH. I know you have long names there. Everybody has universal health care. You show up at a hospital, they will give you health care immediately. They'll ask you questions, so they want to fill out forms, but they will give you health care. Now, if you have the ability to pay for it because you have insurance or you have money, they will collect on their health care. They will come after you for health care. If you have money, they will come after you for health care. If you do not have money, the government will pay for it to certain, certain procedures. Meaning, there's extraordinary procedures or things the government may not cover. We can talk, and I don't know what they are, as in certain rare medical stuff, but standard, basic health care coverage, the United States government will pay for it. Where you get, and again, I don't know specifically in details on the insulin case and Canada and buying. I do know what happens. I just don't know the details. That if you're sort of in that middle ground, you're not poor enough to get the government to pay for it, and you need it, but you don't have good insurance, or you don't have easy money to pay for it in the U.S. You're sort of in that middle ground, to where the government again isn't going to pay for it, but it's expensive. Yeah, that's where you sort of get squeezed. And those people will try to find either going to like Mexico or Canada to get the products cheaper. Now, sometimes it's the same products that in Mexico, it's not the government fund supporting it, just sold cheaper. And sometimes companies just sell stuff cheaper, made in the United States or made somewhere else. The same product sold more expensive in the U.S. because there's a lot of regulations and other taxes on it. Again, maybe import taxes, but sometimes things are just sold more expensive in the U.S. and sold cheaper in other markets. And that is artificially done because an insulin company knows that, hey, it can make $100 million a year selling insulin in Mexico, but it can make $1 billion a year selling it in the USA. Well, they're not going to turn down the $100 million cheaper because that's extra production, extra money. But they could sell it. They could sell it cheaper in the USA, but they don't. They choose not to. There is screwed up market conditions. But trust me, there's multiple things for the GPU shortage. But I'm just simply saying is part of the situation is that if China wants to cut us off from, say, trade, we'd still have minimum production here. So everybody out in the world, there's universal health care coverage in the United States. You show up at a hospital, you will get health care. If you have money, they will want to collect it from you. If you do not have money, they will collect it from the government. The government pays for it. Okay? Now, they just don't have a big universal health care program that everybody is, set into, like in Canada or Britain. But everybody has universal health care in America at a minimum level. At a minimum level. It doesn't cover everything, doesn't pay for everything. And again, those sort of lower middle class people are squeezed because they either can't afford or don't have health insurance, and they're squeezed. They're squeezed. Yeah, okay, let me just quickly read through this stuff. The government actually has power, though. The governments have existed since World War II. They're supranational royal academies, commissions kind of thing. Yeah, I sort of get what you're saying, Thor. Yeah, I think you're going maybe a bit deeper than I do on things. We need to return to the monarchies to fix the problem. Well, the Habsburgs are definitely international monarchists. That's for sure. Yes. Oh yeah, no, Thor, if you've watched my stuff, you know my interactions with the latter house of Habsburg myself, and they're very internationalists, or were. He's passed away now. And now, of course, we also have international mega corporations, which they used to warn us about, and now the left is like, yay, we like Amazon, we like Google. We thought megacorps were going to be evil, but no, they turn out to be nice, warm, fuzzy companies. Yeah. How's that working out? Yeah, well, okay, and I don't know where you're from, but no, I don't know, and I don't know your age. I'm just going to start calling you JH because I can't figure out how to pronounce all those other mishmash of letters. If they mean anything or not, I don't know. Sorry. If you're of an adult age, probably in the country you are from, unless you're very poor, you are paying for it just through your taxes. Because you pay pay taxes to the government pays for it. You're just not paying for it directly. So you do pay, people in Canada pay for their health care just through their taxes, not through pay for a particular operation, pay for a particular thing. So yeah, it isn't a universal healthcare system. It isn't government, single. What we sort of in the U.S. that are sort of arguing about some of the stuff is single payer, meaning only the government is the payer for healthcare. We lost some submarines. Okay, well, you're supposed to notice, get damaged and come home, but you just got swept. Okay, well, now these guys are still organizing themselves up. Yeah, and so so if you're talking that the U.S. doesn't have single-payer health care, yeah, you're right, it doesn't. It does not have single health care payer, meaning the government pays for the health care for everyone. But then that isn't equal, because even then, when I lived in Britain, one of the things that drew people to certain companies in Britain, that they offered private healthcare insurance. Yes, there's the NHS in Britain, but there are also private healthcare hospitals in Britain, or at least there were. I presume they're still there. And so, no, I've not played Deus Ex. Well, I disagree with that, Thor. You're going. I don't think it's. I think it's a class space, not a genetics based thing. But so in Britain, there were private healthcare options for people either who had enough money, or people who worked for a company that had private insurance. They could go to private hospitals in Britain. And so that at least did exist, and I think still exists. So what happened, unless you... Yeah, I know, but let's not go there, because you're right. Most all Japanese cultural people in Japan are Japanese genetically. Yes. I get your point. It's hardworking middle-class people that are paying for it, of whatever race. And if we because I want to stay away from hot-button topics, we can look at the demographics in the U.S. to see who mostly those people are. Absolutely. That's mostly. You're from the Netherlands. Okay. Oh, so you're from Arno's home country there. You're paying through in the Netherlands. I don't know the Netherlands healthcare system, but the government's paying through it from your taxes, so the people pay for it. Now what happens is rich people in the Netherlands will get. I'm talking about the truly rich people, not just people that drive a Mercedes necessarily, but truly rich people in the Netherlands will get maybe local emergency health care, but if they want better health care, they'll just fly to some other country and pay for it. So it's not equal health care. It's not the same health care. They'll go to, they'll go get it somewhere else that they can, get it and pay for it. So yeah, it's, either you're going to institute, communism and not let anybody out of the country. And then, of course, there's secret special hospitals for the elites and the communists. But we can pretend those didn't exist in the Soviet Union and say everyone that gets poor health care, because it all has to be equal. So it's going to be poor quality health care. Or you have a tiered system. And yes, some people are going to get better health care than others. And yes, that isn't the best thing, but this is the best thing we've been able to come up with so far inside of humanity. Because doing theoretical, just make it better. I'm sorry, it doesn't. How doctors and hospitals are expensive, and they just get more and more expensive. And the Democrats lie to people. Small warship armament. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there, I will totally agree, that are sort of the lower middle class, if you will, that just don't have good health and, don't have very good health, plans, or don't have them at all. And they get hit with huge bills because they have to pay for things, and it's expensive as all hell. And I'm not going to pretend it can't be bad for people. I'm not pretending that at all. I'm changing. We've got enough for going down there. Well, I don't know if enough, but I want to put one up here. Okay. We're going to send him our other special purpose armor. Pretty sure we have the open slot for it. Yeah, that's... Yeah, there's a... You play... hello. I think that is Japanese. Konnichiwa. You play version 8.5. Yeah, 8.52. I like the new 10.4.1. I think probably 10.4.3 is even better. It's just newer than what I'm playing through this thing. The 8 versions 8 point whatever or 9 point whatever were really crap. So yeah, avoid those. Either jump to the newer or stay with a bit older. Well, all politicians lie. I mean, that's just the thing, but it's what they're lying about and how they're lying. So equal health care is a fantasy. Oh, yeah, so you're right, Victory, VT. There's fantasy. And I'm not saying healthcare is bad in like the Netherlands. And if you're also, the smaller your nation is, the smaller your economy is, say, I don't know, Luxembourg, or looking at you, Liechtenstein, you can have super health care for, for a small, super wealthy nation like Liechtenstein, you can do that. But when you're looking at something like the US, or, I don't know, Russia, or India or something like that, yeah, universal just really ends up sucking, quite honestly. At least that's my opinion of what's going to happen. And there's in my opinion, no way around it not sucking, just because it's too big, has that word too in front of it, and whatever's too big is always, democracy is always well and good until the majority decides to vote away your rights. Yes, absolutely. Very. Yep, living in a dying republic. Yep, the republic, as one person, Tim Pool, puts it on it. Though he is not created. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding on who is going to be dinner. A republic is a armed sheep contesting the vote. So, like, maybe we don't eat me because I have a firearm. So, yeah, democracy itself is not the high value. Good governance is the high value, and which may be best found through a republic, but that's definitely not through a democracy. Yeah, and I can't comment on the differences between, current Czech systems and whatever. And look, systems are just that, they're systems. You can have better and worse systems. But if you have a single system for a nation, it's called a monopoly. And monopolies are bad. And unfortunately, in some cases, it comes down to like one, insurance provider in a region in the U.S. or something like that, and that's bad. You want competitive You want competitive things to happen, because yes, I am related to people that are of the leftist vein. And I argued very strongly for like healthcare, that every state in the union should not have a national healthcare plan in the United States, because every state in the union should have its whatever it's going to do should have its own sort of. Now I think it should be I support sort of like the idea of that the poorest people get some level of health care from, paid for by the government. But I want a system for the U.S. to have each state have a different one for two reasons. One, I don't know, Maine, which has very few people per square mile, and Rhode Island, which is just this one little province here, Providence, Rhode Island, is a really small state. They need two different systems. Even if theoretically they both have the same number of people, these are all concentrated here, and these are spread out all over here. And then, of course, you have, like, New York City is all people concentrated here, but the rest of the state is all spread out and underpopulated. So the states are different. So they need different solutions. But also, even if two similar states are, doing something, you can compare and contrast. You can see how it works in one state and how it works in a different state, and they can look across at each other and go, well, hey, your system for this works better, but my system for that works better. And you can, change things and compare things, because there is no one system that's going to be good for everything. So a comparativeness and a competitiveness, meaning also I don't think there should be, single payer becomes a problem because, it is the single payer. There is no options. It's like the idea that in America there's a big debate over private schools. And since people pay taxes to support the school system, can people decide to put their students or their children into private school instead of public school? And what they want to do is get a voucher that says, like, for every student, because that's sort of the way it is anyways. But see, schools at least in California, every school in California is tracks how many students they have in their school every single day, because they get paid. The school is a government run school, and it's basically run at the city level, but they get money from the state, and they get money per day per student in school. In that school. So if you have 1,000 students in school, you get paid, say, $100 a day. Okay, and so you get paid that. What the private school people want to do is, give us the $100 instead, the private school instead of the public school. If a student is there, instead of the homeowner or the family is paying taxes, a lot of it's property taxes, and it's income taxes, paying taxes to the government to fund the government schools. But my student is in private schools. Well, can we get the government $100 a day if I move them to a private school? Now, I may also have to pay another $100 extra because it's a fancy special private school, but so that, it helps, so that you give school choice, so that people go, is the government school doing well in this district? Well, why is half the people moving to private schools that they don't have to pay any extra? Because they're better? Well, maybe we need to fix the government schools. Well, maybe the government schools will go out of business because everybody will move to one of the private schools. And it's that competition. I believe in competition. So whenever you have a single payer, whether it's for a school or for a health system, you have problems. Now, if it's small enough, again, if you're Liechtenstein, I'm totally for a single payer healthcare program because it's small. At some stage, I'm against it, for sure, by the U.S. stage, but there's middle grounds between there. Like nonprofit monopolies, absolutely. You want a Soviet Russia? Well, very good. Well, it's been a republic for quite some time. I know you have fairly extreme views. I supported state exams that are acceptable for everyone. Yeah, well, okay. State exams are are fine, and we have equivalency of state testing or exams, and the private school students have to take them, to do that, to basically get into college. Well, if they, you see, if they didn't spend all their money on the military, they couldn't protect Europe. See, Europe has had such an easy ride with the U.S. doing its nuclear weapons programs and whatnot. And other nations in Europe have been able to dismantle their militaries because they were protected by the USA. So, yeah, I hear you say that, but I want to keep the barbarians out of America. Okay, we lost that. You're pushing there. Yeah, it does. I don't know if you've ever heard about something called the Cold War, World War I, World War II. It needed to be protected. The Western Allies probably would have won World War I eventually without America. Definitely would not have won World War I without American industry from day one of the war, had they not had all the armaments manufacturers supporting there. And same in World War II, they wouldn't have won. The Western Allies wouldn't have won. I mean, yeah, obviously Germany's part of that. And the Cold War, no, the Soviets would have just taken over Europe without America protecting it. I'm sorry. You just don't understand the past if you don't think America hasn't been protecting Europe. And right now, I do not believe Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania would be independent states without U.S. protection. I think even the Ukraine would be gone by now as an independent state without U.S. protection. Georgia would be gone as an independent state without U.S. protection. And once they go, Poland is now in the Soviet, sorry, I misspoke there for a moment. Now in the Russian sphere now, we used to be Soviet. Yeah, you need U.S. protection. Well, okay, how is primarily France, though I understand Italy is also, how would France be able to fight the Islamic fundamentalist groups in this part of the world without U.S.? Please explain to me how France could be doing anything down here without the U.S. And say, well, that isn't protecting them. Well, we can see pictures of Islamists invading Spain, literally, literally coming ashore on Spain, and literally coming into Europe from here that are being invaded right now. Probably this very moment, there are people trying to sneak into Spain and sneak into Italy. Now you may say, oh, well, those aren't really terrorists. Well, have you heard about the Child Crusade? The Children's Crusade going against the Crusades. Ari might be able to fill you in more on that. He's big into the Crusades. It may be a non-armed populist invasion of Europe, but without, say, how could France be operating in here without the U.S.? Oh, because all of their air transport to move the units and move their supplies are being done by the United States, because neither France nor Britain have a significant air transport arm that can supply into this part of the world. So, and I don't think they're going to nuke this part of the world just to, get rid of a few terrorists. So, yeah, you need our Strategic Airlift Command. So, yeah, but you see, it's a deterrent system. Yeah, I hear you, but you're mistaken if you don't think you need the U.S. We have one of our air wings up going after this unit that was flying by, because I know there's no air bases, so it was traveling from point A to point B. Oh. Well, look. Look. There's France. There's Afrika. Easy to invade. I mean, Spain is super easy to invade. Italy is super easy to invade, and it's being invaded at this very moment. Greece has been invaded mostly from the Middle East. They're being invaded right now, people. Now, again, it's not necessarily people carrying AK-47s and driving tanks, but they're being invaded by non-nationals that are coming across the border without permission. What would that be? What would people coming into your home that didn't have permission? That would be called an invasion. So Europe is being invaded, okay? Europe is being invaded. They don't seem to be able to deal with it. And if you don't try to stabilize other regions, there's going to cause more invasion because people are going to flee chaos. And if this looks to be super attractive and you're unwilling to, say, sink the boats at sea and video it so seeing the people drown, so to convince the next group not to come, so if they think that they can just get in there and you're going to give them a free lunch and a meal and a place to live, they're going to keep coming. But if you had the guts to, go, nope, you don't invade. We shoot invaders. If you shot the invaders as they tried to come across on their little rubber boats, coming in without permission, it would stop within months because the word would circle down and you wouldn't have to do that anymore. But you're not willing to do that, Europe, so you're being invaded. So you need to try to stabilize. They're trying to stabilize the, southern Sahara regions. And so, I know you guys are talking back and forth about nuclear weapons and whatnot. Come back and talk to me about the effectiveness of small nations with nuclear weapons once one of them has used one in a military situation. And come back and talk to me when, a nation other than the United States, a Western nation other than the United States, uses a nuclear weapon. And then we will talk about whether nuclear weapons, why didn't Britain use a nuclear weapon on Argentina when Argentina invaded the Falklands? They didn't have to drop it like right on the capital or anything. They could have just, nuked an air base because there were several major air bases that were operating from the mainland for the Argentinians. Why didn't they do that? Now, they did sink the Belgrano, the American, I think it was a Brooklyn-class cruiser. Or was it a Cleveland? I think it was a Brooklyn-class cruiser. Old World War II cruiser out here not with nuclear. I think it was a nuclear submarine. I'm not sure, but it was with the conventional torpedoes. But France has lost all this territory here because this was part of metropolitan France. Where Tunisia and Morocco were, colonial possessions. This was metropolitan France. Nuke someplace out here. You use the nukes once, then come and talk to me about nuclear power, military power. That people will really be afraid that you'll actually use it, not that it's just some theoretical possibility that nobody takes you seriously. You come and you use some nuclear power, nuclear weapons, and then we will talk about another nation taking you seriously in the future. I'm not saying you should use it just randomly, but the idea is that weapons that you do not use, people do not believe you will use them. Okay, so we just got all of these guys on board up here. So what I'm going to do is move you up to here. Okay, we have this. Well, I think we're going to do a comeback next time for hopefully the invasion of Malta. See how that goes. Okay, there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of air power there. I don't think. Are we seeing these guys? No, we're not seeing. I think this is all just British air power sitting here, including the bombers. Yeah, yeah, that's all British air power. Well, they've got a lot of air power sitting there. Well, Russia is not a trusty ally. Sorry, it just never has been. They all mention relying on U.S. for their defense. Yep, Victory, you're absolutely right. Well, I say Russia's never been a trusty ally. So until I see historical, see, I can look at, the last time was, well, I guess it ended in around 1815. The last time we were really at war with Britain was around 1815. Um, the War of 1812, but it lasts a few years beyond that. Since then, Britain has been a rather trusted ally of the United States. I mean, they have their own interests. Sometimes they work to foil our interests. Sometimes we work to foil theirs. Like one of the cases when France and Britain supported an Israeli invasion here, and the French and the British tried to seize back control of the Suez Canal, and Eisenhower really messed with them. I mean, they didn't attack them or anything, but basically got them to stop trying to resecure the Suez Canal. They weren't trying to take over Egypt, but just trying to resecure the Suez Canal and let Israel have the Sinai, and they controlled the Suez was sort of the plan there. So sometimes we conflict, say U.S. and Britain, but I think they're a trustworthy ally. But give me 100 years of good behavior through different governments, and then we'll talk. That isn't the thing going on. Yeah, but then you couldn't afford all your government health care. See, that's the point is you can afford your government health care because you don't have to spend large sums of money on your military. Yes, absolutely, Ari. That's what I said earlier. The Baltics wouldn't be still a thing right now if it wasn't for the U.S./NATO commitment to the Baltics. Wouldn't necessarily be day one, T-80 tanks or T-90s or whatever, the new Armatas driving across the border. But it would be disruptions. The little green men, as they're called, would be coming over. Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's an old thing: guns or butter. Do you want guns or butter? Some of the uh, butter or coming out of butter can be used to make explosives. So, do you want the butter on your table? This was, I think, started in World War II. But guns or butter? Do you want guns or do you want butter? So, do you want ammo or do you want butter on your table? So they diverted a lot of that. People, that's why margarine started to happen. That's why my dad really likes margarine, because he grew up during the war as a butter substitute. And so they put the butter resources into making ammunition for World War II. So guns or better, healthcare or defense. Europe has chosen healthcare, where the U.S. has chosen defense, and I believe Europe has only been able to do that because America has chosen defense and to defend Europe. And so, yeah, U.S. is part of providing defense, just trying to get them to reach. Oh well, yeah, we would like 2% of their GDP spent on defense. Yeah, well, at least most of the nations can't even make it to that 2% level. Now, we can talk about wasteful wars that continue way too long in Afghanistan. Because, yes, we needed to invade Afghanistan to punish them for supporting Al Qaeda when they wouldn't let us come and just go after Al Qaeda. So they basically allied with, their attacks on 9/11. Now, that doesn't mean we should be there, 20 years later? 5 years would have been enough, or whatever. You come in, beat up on them, teach them, don't you do that, or we'll come in. And next time we'll nuke a city kind of thing or something, and just sort of make it out to be you don't ever want to support somebody who's actually going to attack the United States. Defense is shore bombardment. We'll do shore bombardment. Help that out a bit. Without America, Turkey, Russia, more than 100%. Well, Turkey is now in the Russian camp. Turkey, to my understanding, has been removed from all secret elements of NATO and are more and more being isolated in NATO. That's my understanding of the situation. Somebody might know in more detail, but Turkey is now in the Russian camp. Maybe not firmly in the Russian camp. There's still a little bit of conflict, but they're more or less in Russian camp now. Well, they're not really. I mean, a little bit of them is geographically in Europe, but they're not really part of Europe, culturally or geographically, because that's Asia. That's Asia. I think right here, or whatever was the province of Asia. And this is really where Asia is. The old Greek province of Asia. Artillery preparation training. That, I think, is here. Right there. Okay, good. It's grayed out. Let's look here for things that we could or should be doing first. Ground attack focus in. Yeah, okay. Just keep seeing if somebody other than Finland wants to join our alliance. Okay, well, I think we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please post a comment. Love to hear what you're thinking about all of our various topics. This is sort of a different day that we hang out and talk about things. Join us on Saturday. See you next time.